Hey, Warrior Saints. Father Chris here, and welcome to the Way of the Warrior Saint. Today I want to dive into excuses, making excuses, and specifically making excuses to stay away from church. Something we all do, something we've all done, probably do it again. But I want to explore it a little bit and understand how we can fight those excuses. There's a great story in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 14, where Jesus tells a parable about a man who threw a wedding feast, a great banquet, and he invited all the people. And it says in Luke chapter 14 that one by one they began to make excuses. One of them had a new field he bought and he needed to go check it out. Another one had bought a yoke of 5 new oxen that he needed to go examine. The third guy says, I'm having my own wedding feast. Please have me excused. The ruler of the house who was throwing this great banquet got irritated, and he told his servants, literally he was ticked off. He said, go out into the streets and get everyone, fill that house, right? Because I'm about to celebrate. Bring everyone in who will come in, who will enjoy my banquet, because I want my house full. Those who have been called, they were many, but really only the ones that choose and come in, they're very few because people make too many excuses. Now you and I, we do the same thing. We're no different. We're no different than the guys in the story. We're supposed to be that guy in the story. And the struggle that we face, the challenge that we face, is the excuse making that you and I do to keep us away from church. We're standing outside the doors of St. George here in Phoenix. Let's continue our talk inside. Come on. In all of the challenges that we face in life, the church is here to guide us, to lead us, to help us become transformed men and women. We say it to become warrior saints, strong, thoughtful leaders who think independently, who care for other people. The church is there to guide us, and she's developed, if you will, a plan for us, a place for us to find that transformation, to find that fulfillment. In the Orthodox faith, we call that liturgy, and that's our main worship service. That's when we come together as an entire community. We gather in the church to worship God, to hear the Word of God read and taught to us, and then we partake of that very same Word of God, which has become flesh, in the Holy Communion. In the Divine Liturgy, we are transformed, or at least we have the possibility to be transformed. And the plan is that all of us have to come together and gather together so that God can do what God does, changing our lives from mediocre people into warrior saints. But one of the things that we really do a lot of is make excuse after excuse to keep us from church. It happens to all of us. Let me tell you, to be fair and honest, there have even been some Sundays where I have tried to talk myself out of coming to church. And I'm the priest who has to do the service, right? So I get it. But as we make excuses about, I have familial obligations, or my children have sports, or it's NFL season, or there are animals to care for, or there are places I want to go, or, I hear this one all the time, Father, Sunday's the only day I have off, I work all week. Right? We've made excuses like all of these other guys in the story that we heard from St. Luke, and have been kept away from the heavenly banquet, kept away from that life-changing transformation. This is to our detriment. I'm encouraging us to stop making those excuses and to fight to be in the church so that we can find the transformation that comes from God. Let's go into the nave. You know, what I really want to challenge us today, the task I want to put before all of us, stop making excuses to stay away from church. I'm not asking you to come to church for my sake. I'm not asking you to come to church even really for the sake of our community to look impressive, look how many there are. But what I'm saying to all of us, and really even this applies to people who aren't in Phoenix, who aren't warrior saints at St. George, in any church community that you belong to, is to make no excuses to keep you from it. Right? We all want to find We all want to do the right thing. We all want to be in the right place. We all want to feel that sense of maturation, of growing, of becoming a solid human being. We want that transformation. God's given us that opportunity in the church to do it. So we have to fight. Really, we have to fight to stop making excuses, to stop saying that all of these other things are more important. It's tough. I got it. But get up on Sunday morning. Do whatever you can do. Do even better. Do whatever it takes. Maybe you even need to start the planning on Saturday night so that you don't make that excuse like those 3 people in the story from the Gospel of Luke we just talked about. So that when we come to church, and here's the beautiful part about it, what happens here, that sense of dread that we feel living in the world is taken away from us. That sense of anguish that we feel, that sense of suffering, that sadness, that being lost is taken from us. God takes that away from us. It is replaced with peace in our hearts, with a little bit more wisdom in our minds, and a little bit more strength in our guts. We find ourselves beginning those steps of transformation as we become closer and closer to being the full man that we all want to be. We become closer and closer to being transformed. We become closer and closer to being warrior saints. So the challenge I put before you today, brothers and sisters, stop making excuses. Make it part of your routine to be in church every single Sunday. Allow God His chance to transform you into strong men, into strong women, into warrior saints. So until next time, keep walking on the way of the warrior saint.